All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, the Tennessee Volunteers went to Athens with a ton of confidence and for good reason. The Vols were the top ranked team in the initial college football playoff rankings, which came out this past Tuesday. And a big reason for that was, they got road wins over the likes of Pitt and LSU. And then we saw them beat Alabama at home a couple of weeks ago in a thriller. But today, the Volunteers found themselves having to tango with the Georgia Bulldogs, who are the defending national champs. And in today's contest, it did not take the Bulldogs that long to show Tennessee who still runs the SEC East. Now, Georgia was clicking on all cylinders from the word go. And before you even blinked, Tennessee found themselves in a 21-3 deficit that they were never able to recover from. Excuse me. We saw this Georgia defense today put the clamps on a Volunteers offense that had been carving up opposing defenses all season long. Today, Tennessee was just 2 of 14 on third down with just 289 yards of total offense. Hendon Hooker, the tremendous Volunteers quarterback who is a Heisman candidate, was 23 of 33 passing today for just a buck 95, no touchdown passes, and one interception. This Georgia defense kept Tennessee's offense out of the end zone until the waning stages of this contest. And at that point, it was really going to be very difficult for Tennessee to pull off a miracle in Athens. But on the flip side for Georgia, excuse me, it's kind of been there, done that for their quarterback, Stetson Bennett. 17 of 25 passing today for 257 with a pair of touchdown throws and another touchdown run. We saw Lad McConkey come up big against this Tennessee secondary, 5 big catches for 94 yards, and of course, that touchdown grab. Now, for me, you look at Tennessee and everything that they needed to do in this contest, which I talked about leading into this game, they were unable to. They needed to score early, take this crowd out of the game. They also needed to score early and put the pressure on Georgia's offense. They didn't do that. They were unable to dictate the pace, and that's a credit to Georgia because Georgia is a very good football team. And when you go on the road and want to knock off a team like Georgia, you got to bring it in each phase of the game. And unfortunately for Tennessee, they could not do that today. And honestly, at the end of the day, that is a credit to Georgia. For me, and some people, please don't take this the wrong way, but I feel like this Georgia win was an Alabama type win for Georgia and Kirby Smart. And I say that because Alabama, for the longest time, has been the gold standard in the SEC. And, they always hear about the hype about a team coming in or that they have to travel to knock off X, Y, and Z. And is this going to be it? And, typically over the years, we've seen Alabama flex their muscles in those type games. Well, guess what? That's what Georgia did today. Georgia heard all of that hype about Tennessee. Georgia seen all of the hype about Tennessee. And I'm saying hype not to in any way, shape, or form take anything away from what Tennessee has done. But you have a lot of guys on this Bulldogs team that were on that national championship team last year. And these guys, they're veterans in these type settings, and they're like, hey, you know what? You're talking about Tennessee. Well, what about us? And Georgia went out there today and proved their worth. Now, for Tennessee, they now know what it's going to take for them should they make the college football playoff because you're probably going to have to go through Georgia once again if you want to win the national championship if you're the Volunteers. And for Tennessee, they're still in a good spot because obviously they're going to fall in the rankings and rightfully so. They're not going to fall too far. But with that said, Tennessee's in a good spot because now, barring some miracle, they're not going to win the SEC East. with that, so which means they're not going to get to the SEC championship game. So now Georgia's going to have to face that game, and they're going to have to deal with an Ole Miss, with an LSU, with an Alabama. We don't know who's going to come out of the West, but nonetheless, those teams are going to beat up on each other. You're going to have all of these other teams in conference championship games as well that are going to have to take care of their business. You know, whether it's the Big Ten, ACC, S, Pac-12, you Big 12, you name it. So Tennessee, I think, is in a very good spot to go out there and just handle their business. And obviously, come conference championship weekend, they're going to have to play the waiting game. So Tennessee, you know, they're home from Missouri. Next Saturday, their final home game of the year, and then they finish on the road with two contests, first to South Carolina and then at Vanderbilt. But you know, it's going to be business as usual for Tennessee. They got to get back on track, put this loss in the rearview mirror very quickly, and know that they still have an opportunity to do something special. But for Georgia, it's one of those been there, done that. They're accustomed to these big games. Their big players know how to step up in these big games. It was a playoff type atmosphere this afternoon in Athens. The fans there knew that they needed to be in the game to support their team to help Georgia beat a very good Tennessee team. And guess what? They did. And now I would be extremely surprised if Georgia is not the top ranked team in the next playoff rankings, which come out on Tuesday. Georgia flexed their muscles. They showed that they're the real deal. And for what it's worth, the road to a national championship for this college football season once again goes through the dogs. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.